Climate change is not real, is what I would say if I was a dumbass. Björn Lomborg, Matt Ridley, Richard Lindzen, Steve McIntyre, Ross McKittrick, Richard Toll, Judith Curry. If any of these big names ring a bell for you, my condolences. Each of these people mentioned are who you'd call climate skeptics, more accurately, lukewarmers. To corroborate their opinions, let's take a look at their fields of education. Lomborg, MA and PhD in Political Science. Ridley, BA and DPhil in Zoology, with research on the mating system and polygamy of the common pheasant. Sorry, I just had to include that. Lindzen, BA in Physics, as well as MA and PhD in Applied Mathematics. McIntyre, BSc in Mathematics and MA in PPE, apparently meaning Philosophy, Politics, and Economics. McKittrick, BA and PhD in Economics. Toll, MSc in Econometrics and PhD in Economics. Curry, BS in Geography and PhD in Geophysical Sciences. All of these people are random, famous vocal outliers for their view as modern lukewarmers, each with different educational disciplines that don't align with the environmental sciences, not to mention climate change almost at all, especially from a scientific perspective. All except for one, but we'll talk about her later. PragerU, by their own definition, creates free educational content promoting American values. Ah yes, American values. In reality, PragerU is a conservative media outlet with their own YouTube channel, website, and unfortunately, audience, presenting itself as a university with claims that, let's just say, are interesting. Spanning back to a decade ago, PragerU has frequently stood their ground claiming that climate change either isn't real because the climate is always changing, or that it isn't that bad. In this video, we're going to be focusing on The Good News About Climate Change by Judith Curry. Yes, that Judith Curry that I mentioned earlier. And I'm pretty sure the old title was Good News, the World is Not Ending, but realized either it doesn't generate enough clicks or that the world is ending. Also, they sourced the definition of hubris for me.
Let's start with the good news.
I'm listening.
All things considered, planet Earth is doing fine.
What are you looking at me for? That's not an audacious claim at all.
In fact, humans are doing better than at any other time in history.
Yes, besides the rising temperatures, extreme weather, increased disaster frequency, widespread conflict, severe crises, displacement, widespread hunger, catastrophic hunger, the weakening agreements, and increased risks in nuclear threats, we are doing better now than ever in history. However, what does this have to do with climate?
Over the last 100 years, when temperatures have warmed by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's true. Global average temperatures over the last 100 years have warmed by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit or 1 degree Celsius, which doesn't seem so much. Even so, is the global average temperature the most important measure to look at when understanding climate change? What even is climate change? How does it occur? Which areas are seen to be the most affected by this phenomenon? Climate change, according to the UN and my 6th grade textbook, refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. Greenhouse gases are gases that blanket the Earth, trapping the sun's heat within our atmosphere, therefore raising temperatures. A list of those greenhouse gases can be seen here, the most encompassing greenhouse gas being carbon dioxide, which is why many attempt to reduce the use of fossil fuels, as it contributes a largely disproportionate amount of carbon dioxide in comparison to its alternatives. Climate change has different effects in different areas in the world. To use the most prominent example, polar regions are warming 3 times more quickly than the global average. Right now, summer sea ice is disappearing, permafrost is thawing, and wildfires are surging. Notably, the number and frequency of wildfires in areas close to the Arctic like Alaska and Siberia has considerably increased. While the global temperature increase isn't too much, it's important to focus on the regional impacts of climate change, as the extremes are more prevalent in certain areas than others. Wow, I cannot believe I'm explaining climate change to my audience for a media studies assignment.
Global population has increased by 6 billion people.
This is the metric for how good we're doing in history? I didn't know there was a direct proportionality between good and the rate of people popping out babies.
While global poverty has substantially declined.
Global poverty has substantially declined in the last few decades, but how contributive was the use of fossil fuels in lowering global poverty next to our establishments and advancements in things like technology and governance? To generally name a few things we've done differently in the last 100 years, education has become more inclusive and accessible, equipping individuals no matter the gender and class with skills and knowledge. Healthcare has advanced in accessibility and technology to further identify and provide medication and vaccines to a wider population. Social safety net policies have been implemented to protect people not only from poverty, but also from economic shocks, providing individuals with cash transfers and buffers during certain economic conditions, and I can list some more here. Have you noticed a pattern? Each of these changes and policies enable individuals to contribute to the workforce. And guess what? When people work, they get money. Not to mention, there exists a strong link between economic growth and the reduction in poverty. How surprising. Just because you can see a correlation in two data points does not mean that one caused the other. What I'm confused of is how PragerU claims fossil fuels play a significant role in lowering global poverty when so much happened in the last 100 years. Our generalized world is the farthest thing away from a controlled experiment. Like, sure, they were used as a significant energy resource, but substitute fossil fuels with any other fuel source and we'd end up at the same place. Let's take a look at their argument. Okay, there is no argument in the video, and I looked at the source that they gave me, and there is no explanation there either. The 2 times climate change is mentioned in the article was to mock Democrats and to state that climate change still is a huge threat. The author just states and celebrates the reduction of global poverty. Global poverty.
And the number of people killed from weather disasters has decreased by 97% on a per capita basis.
PragerU knows facts, but is this because climate change isn't dangerous? Over the last century, we have improved forecasting by using advanced computer models and satellite sensors to provide some lead time for major weather events like hurricanes. Early warning systems were developed with broadcasts allowing emergency alerts to be sent via multiple channels, such as cell phone broadcasts to people within those affected areas. More resilient architecture has been created through advanced engineering methods to withstand extreme weather conditions and temperature changes. Drones can now be deployed for search and rescue operations in hazardous areas to prevent post-disaster deaths. Instantaneous communication has been developed, allowing communities to coordinate requests for aid and support. Emergency management has been improved through pre-disaster planning, training, coordinated international cooperation, and advancements in disaster medicine. And people overall have more resources as they get wealthier to invest in protective measures like air conditioning and robust housing. While the statement, "the natural disaster mortality rate has decreased by 97% is true, we have adapted and advanced our methods of surviving natural disasters so much so that this does not mean that climate change isn't dangerous, but that we've had to do all this to adapt to such extreme conditions."
We are obviously not facing an existential crisis. Anyone who tells you that we are is not paying attention to the historical data. Instead, they are concerned about what might happen in the future, based on predictions from inadequate climate models driven by unrealistic assumptions.
Most climate models are more than adequate, driven by historical data, and cause concern due to what will happen in the future. I was interested in how climate model predictions seem to be inadequate to her, because surprise surprise, a lot of climate models are based on historical data. The source of her opinion on the climate models' inadequacy leads to an Amazon page of her own book behind a paywall. By the way, how the f does she have 4.6 stars? While I can't find why she thinks these predictions are inadequate, I can try to dispute why they aren't. To begin, I can only assume she's alluding to the climate model made by the Representative Concentration Pathways, specifically RCP 8.5, because this model was intended to display the worst case scenario, and its assumptions, such as the 5 times increase in coal use by 2100, is increasingly and justifiably considered implausible. But this model does not reflect all climate models, and it is unfair to do so as thousands of accredited climate scientists worldwide are working on different climate models. To take a step back, what exactly are climate models? Climate models use mathematical equations to characterize how energy and matter interact in different parts of the ocean, atmosphere, and land. Once set up, they go through a testing process called hindcasting. Commonly, models are initialized to pre-industrial conditions. When the run begins, inputs of historical solar intensity, volcanic activity, and greenhouse gas levels update the model environment to reflect actual conditions to each time step. The results are then compared to observed conditions to see how they match, continuously testing for accuracy and changes needed to improve and build a model that can be used to predict future climate. On top of this, certain scenarios can also be tested, such as an increase in human population, how land is used, the evolution of economies, and changes in atmospheric conditions, like climate forcing. resulting in different storylines like RCP 8.5.
For the past 50 years, the global climate has been fairly benign.
Are we living on the same planet? The global climate has exponentially gotten worse for the past 50 years. Let's take a look at a frequency of intense US weather and climate disasters from 1980 to 2024, in which their costs and damages are at least $1 billion. To go through these quicker, I will take the year with the most disaster-related events within each of the decades to give you a broader understanding of how much worse the weather and climate's extremities have gotten throughout the decades. In the 1980s, 1985 had the most events, having 7 major billion-dollar costing disasters, including flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, and freezes. In the 1990s, 1998 had the most events, having 11 major disasters ranging from freezes and ice storms to severe weather and storms, droughts and heat waves, flooding, hurricanes, and tornadoes. In the 2000s, 2008 had the most events with 12 major disasters, including droughts, wildfires, hurricanes, flooding, tornadoes, and severe weather. In the 2010s, 2017 had the most with 19 major disasters, with wildfires, droughts, hurricanes, severe weather, freezes, tornadoes, and storms. Lastly, in the grand 2020s, which we are halfway through by the making of this video, 2023 had the most major disasters with 28, with floods, droughts, severe storms, hurricanes, wildfires, typhoons, hailstorms, and winter storms.
Climate change has little to do with the declining water level of Lake Chad.
Climate change had nearly everything to do with the declining water level of Lake Chad. If you aren't aware of what Lake Chad is one of the largest endorheic basins in the world. Endorheic meaning having no outflow to the sea. In numerous case studies, it's been observed that Lake Chad's declining water level has been a result of multiple factors, such as climate change, climatic variability, as well as unsustainable water management projects. Though human water use or irrigation is a factor to the fluctuations, climate change remains to be the most dominant factor in multiple studies to the water's long-term decline. PragerU frames the situation as if humans were entirely at fault for the declining water level in Lake Chad, when human intervention just added on to the already bad droughts due to climate change.
The biggest problem with climate change is not climate change per se, it's how we're dealing with it. We're attempting to control the uncontrollable at great cost by urgently eliminating fossil fuels.
Climate change cannot be stopped in its entirety because it is a natural occurrence that we unnaturally worsened. But we can most definitely alleviate the amount of greenhouse gases filling our atmosphere, especially since 70% of those greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, a gas we are actively producing. And guess what's causing that? The real question is, do the material costs of eliminating fossil fuels supersede the costs of declining global living standards? Now don't get me wrong, it's expensive to eliminate fossil fuels, but it isn't money that the world doesn't have.
Isn't it true that 97% of scientists agree that humans are causing dangerous climate change?
This statement references the percentage of scientific consensus that human activities are the primary cause to global warming in multiple research papers, which is 97%. This percentage has been pushed by major scientific bodies such as the IPCC, NASA, NOAA, etc. And PragerU didn't cite any of these papers. Instead, they cited Stephen E. Kunin's, who is a speaker in another anti-climate change video, personal anti-climate paper, who, mind you, graduated from Caltech and MIT in physics, not environmental sciences. To make his stance even more prevailing, the guy was employed by BP as their oil and gas company's chief scientist. Back on topic, how does one come to the conclusion of this percentage? Well, then I need a 100% scientific consensus of human activities causing climate change is based on multiple studies, one of which scrapes 12,000 abstracts of research papers, 4,000 of those taking a position of recent global warming, and within those research papers, thousands of datasets. To represent how one paper comes to the conclusion of the scientific consensus being 91.1 to 100%, we can look at this paper. For this paper, they sent over 10,000 emails to active Earth scientists of the Directory of Geoscience departments by the American Geosciences Institute, receiving 2,780 responses. They compiled survey answers regarding their expertise in climate sciences, number of scientific publications, number of climate change related publications, number of years worked in climate change, number of people in which over 50% of their scientific publications are in climate change, and their main reason for observed global warming on Earth. splitting the responses of all survey respondents: climate and atmospheric scientists, self-identified climate experts, and confirmed climate experts. As per this dataset, even without taking expertise into account, 91.1% of all survey respondents agreed that human activity is the main cause of the observed global warming. That number scaling higher as they are more acquainted with the field. And when confirmed expertise is taken into account, 98.7% agree that humans are the primary source, meaning only 2 confirmed climate experts agree that natural processes are the main reason for our observed warming on Earth. This is just one of many methods used in studies of how scientific consensus between 90 to 100% is met. Let's talk about Judith Curry, the speaker of this video. You might be wondering, is she certified to be speaking on this topic? No, she's not. Let me explain. From an academic standpoint, Judith A. Curry has a bachelor's degree in geography from the Northern Illinois University in 1974, but more importantly, a PhD in the geophysical sciences from the University of Chicago in 1982, which sounds great, but during her studies, she has not contributed any significant research paper in accordance to climate change to earn her degree. According to one of the most cited studies she co-authored, a large increase was seen in the number and proportion of hurricanes reaching categories 4 and 5. Wait, a large increase? Here's where it gets complicated. She's not a climate change denier, but rather thinks that we aren't the cause, that climate models are inadequate and that eliminating fossil fuels is not how you fix the current global warming we're experiencing. Or does she think that? Judith over here has a private weather forecasting company. Through that business, she receives funding from fossil fuel companies in exchange for sharing information to those corporations and has publicly acknowledged it. Basically, if we eliminate fossil fuels, we say bye-bye to Judith's company and money. Don't listen to PragerU. Although they show sources, some don't correlate with their points, and others are cherry-picked information used to amplify their argument and make money off of your political stance. Because screw them liberals, am I right? My name's Devin, Dev or DCE, and you're listening to the most qualified YouTuber teaching common sense. Signing off. Also, why are you even listening to me?